Mine says, lead me, follow me, and get out of my way. And then basically that means like.
You bring up an idea. I'm like, I know what that is, and then so basically we have to tailor this a little bit because our ultimate outcome needs to address the people where they're at, and we don't have these fictitious people to talk to.
Yeah, we need like an outline because it should work for like each one.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like the same questions should be asked.
So our central purpose for the day was to try and figure out how do we create a theory of change. What's the first step in the process? For us, we started with identifying the long-term and intermediary outcomes that we'd want to accomplish with a given idea. So this simulation is about doing just that.
Like much like the way we're going, like you start at one point, you have these kinds of same like topics of discussion, and then by the end of it, those people, but you graduate from it, like graduate, you know what I'm saying?
So our ultimate outcome, we want to provide women who have experienced domestic violence with a secure and stable place in society. And we've got 3 long-term outcomes that sort of enable that ultimate outcome. One is by giving them the skills needed to be able to have a job that allow them to be stable. Another is then to empower them with the social and emotional competencies to navigate through any trauma that occurred because of the domestic violence. And then the last one is we want to make sure that they know that there's always access to support as they're continuing on with their lives from that point forward.
Step out of the example for a second and be meta about what you're learning about the process. The process of starting to think about the opportunities and challenges when you're like trying to create a theory of change.
Yeah, so I think like I would definitely agree with like Kate in this idea of like it very much feels like creating like a vision for your classroom and or like just like just identifying the issue and then like backwards planning from there.
The biggest thing for me is finding these people that you want to serve, like because we are servants to serve as you try to lead in these different changes and bringing them to the table. So you are identifying and they are identifying the actual needs that need to be done. So I'm even thinking about some of the things I want to do, like, okay, I need to make more connections with people who are actually in this right now, either doing this work or being affected by certain things.
So much of it feels very much like just like we were just saying, like being the middleman or like the resource, and I just feel like I'm like learning about like the issue, but because I like for lots of different reasons aren't like the one that's capable of like making the change myself, and so just like learning what it means to like get within an issue and like connect and like you're saying like find who you need to be able to make that change.
And say a little bit more about why you feel like you might not be the person capable of making the change.
I think like I don't just like realizing like how much humility is just like a big part of it, and realizing that like I am part of a greater movement and I will be like so much more effective if I'm working alongside everyone else, and stepping back from like my ideas and my like things that I think are going to make the change more so, and like realizing like that this is the issue that I see, but I want very much to make sure that what I do is based in what is actually going to be effective, and right now I don't feel like I know what that is, and so I'm like trying to seek out who does know in order before making like steps.
Because even Mr. Black mentioned that these kind of movements and being a part of these things, it's multidimensional. And so we are working with a lot of people now who are all these people we don't know, and that's part of it. We're building connections and talking to folks, as well as, not everyone's going to serve in the same capacity. So what is your niche, and how are you best fulfilling that?
Yeah, and figuring out like where do I fit within this greater picture, and I think that when thinking about like when I was reading about authentic leadership and like realizing like that until I find like where I authentically fit, my change is not going to be as effective or as sustainable. You know, and like really understanding like what my niche is, and like Mr. Black was talking about, like am I the person that makes the sandwiches, or am I the person that's picketing, or like where do I fit in? Because I want it to be sustainable and I want it to be long term and the most effective, and I think until I find where my skill sets need to be, it's not going to be that.
What can you imagine being difficult about this process besides some of the things that you named, like getting the people at the table potentially to be a part of identifying outcomes and stuff like that? Like, this seems like a messy process in general.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I can already identify for myself would be the patience aspect, especially being a millennial. We like things so quick and instant, and the fact that even he was saying the one protest against riches, that was a year's process, and that was just for one small part of this whole civil rights movement. So being able to truly understand, like, this isn't we talked about it yesterday, it's going to come to fruition in a week, or even some of the things the small things you may want to change within the organizations that help, like with Teach for America. It's not going to, I complain to Sam about this, it'll be changed next week. Like, this may be 2 or 3 core classes from now that certain things will be addressed. So being able to have that patience and that long term and that diligence to keep being persistent about certain things.
And I think for me, it's just finding something and like really sticking with it. So for like in most aspects of my life, I get distracted very easily, and especially with like injustice, I feel like I'm constantly learning about something new, and so really being able to like find what is like where I want to focus my energy long term is going to be like the hardest thing. And then also just like really, I feel like it's going to come with a lot of like trying one thing and then like it not working, and like problem solving, and just that persistence and trying to make sure that like I'm constantly driving towards the same goal, but that I'm able to like try different things without getting frustrated, without giving